Welcome on in, episode number 40. Al Horford.
Wow. I don't know if he was number 40 ever, but
He was.
when?
Sixers days, I think.
Okay.
40. Brian Scalabrine.
Sean Kemp.
Did Scalabrine wear number 40?
I don't know. Sean Kemp.
I can't think of anyone else.
Shandon Anderson. I came prepped today. I didn't even have to cheat. This is an easier number. 40.
Tim Thomas? C40?
No.
Kurt Thomas.
There you go.
One of the Thomases.
Yes, Kurt Thomas.
Wait, what number was Patrick Ewing?
33. Not even close.
Alright, moving on.
And speaking on elder players, and especially Sean Kemp, it's a smooth transition to what we're going to be talking about today in our episode. Something different and something not exactly current at the moment. We're going to be talking about teams that had hyped up cores and talented cores, whether it be through acquisition-based young players or even drafted and traded for in early careers.
So this is not a one-year stint type of thing.
No, so these are cores that had hype but never won what they were supposed to win. Whether that could be getting to the finals by winning the East or West, or even winning it all. These are teams that might have come close to those goals but never hit the mark, despite the wealth of talent on the teams and closeness of each.
Yeah, so the first one, this is not in any specific order.
I wanted to start this with the obvious. This is what we call the blueprint for what I'm talking about. If you would scroll down to the 2000s Clippers, we have these notes just so you guys know what I mean by scroll down, not you guys, as in my co-host. So this first team, the blueprint for what we're talking about today is the early 2000s Clippers. So that'd be like 2000 season to like 2002. It was a group of 5 youthful potential superstars, potential all-stars put together on one team, and they were primed for success, so they thought. But as we know, the Clippers didn't win anything. Let's get into some of these guys that they had. It actually started with, in 1999, Lamar Odom was drafted by the Clippers with the 4th overall pick. So he was that first chip to fall to the Clippers. And then the following draft, they picked Darius Miles and Quentin Richardson, the duo of friends, and they had also traded for Corey Maggette by giving up a 2006 pick to the Magic, which turned out to be Marcus Williams. Not much of a get for the Magic there. They missed out on Maggette. And the last piece of that would be in 2001, the Bulls gave up Elton Brand to get Tyson Chandler in a draft day trade where, 1999's first overall pick was Elton Brand. Chandler was drafted 2nd overall in 2001. So, that all in all, that seems like a fair trade when you look at it from a distant angle, but at that time, an interesting move by the Bulls. Elton Brand turned out to be a solid two-way threat there on the traditional 4 setting before all this floor spacing, but altogether we had a group of young athletic players on one team.
Elton Brand was pretty much... He played small ball center sometimes.
Yeah, but back then it was not. Although Candy was.
But yeah, it seems like their team was built around wings, 3/4s.
2/3s.
Pretty much how modern day is built. You got to get good wings that could play really good defense, but also do a lot on offense. So that's what I have to say about that. Their team had a lot of depth, as if you're looking at the roster and the graphic. They do have a lot of depth.
they also had not only the depth, the hype, because it was such a young, put-together team. They had a lot of the rap stuff going on. Unfortunately, we know those years were run by Shaq and Kobe, so they became a footnote on the dynasty of LA to a different team in LA. Unfortunately. And in that 2001-2002 season, after they had acquired Brand, they finished in 5th in the Pacific. Back then, divisions mattered more because each division's winner actually had a top 3 seed, if you didn't know that. So it was pretty important where you fell in your division for that matter, but 5th, obviously you're not making the playoffs. Although they were 39-43. Not a terrible record for a team with youth.
Yeah, coached by none other than Alvin Gentry.
One of my favorite coaches. Like I said on my song, I'm trying to get more wins than Alvin Gentry.
So next,
Young Guns 2.0. Is that what it says there for their nickname?
Yeah,
athletic, raw, and fun to watch with your notes. That is the whole premise. That's why they're the blueprint of this. So let's give you a speaking point here for the next one.
We're moving on to the
next one. Yep.
All right. So next one we'll go with is a year before this, right? Or 2 years?
I mean, it's around the same era. In other words,
the 99-2000 Toronto Raptors, highlighted by Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady, 2 cousins who did they know they were cousins at this point?
Yes, they knew they were cousins the whole time.
So T-Mac was just coming off 6-man, if I remember correctly.
How did they assemble this team?
They seems like they just, I don't know, a lot of big.
All right, let me get. So Vince Carter came to the Raptors in a trade with the Warriors in his youthful years. Vince Carter made his legacy, and he told them, and since he was the cornerstone of the new franchise, that he wanted his cousin Tracy McGrady drafted. He was the second piece. They also found Doug Christie from the Knicks. Now talk about some of these other guys.
All right, so we got the legend Muggsy Bogues, one of the smallest players.
He came with Del Curry in a trade, I believe, from the Hornets.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these role players I'm not too fond of.
Antonio Davis was a nice piece in the inside, playing the power forward in the center roles. Oakley, again, former Knick and also Bull, gave you that enforcer type with the rebounding and gruff. He also gruff, you know, Gruff McGriff. Tough guy attitude for those young. Kevin Willis was a nice veteran. They had Alvin Williams even like at the backup point is like a real solid player. D Brown off the bench. Those don't matter.
Head coached by Butch Carter. I cannot tell you anything about that guy, but possibly related to Vince. No, I'm kidding.
But another athletic, fast-paced team, and basically it was Carter's team, and McGrady was emerging as a future star, taking after his cousin, but he was more of a triple threat type because he was able to shoot the jumper well. Vince Carter was a lot of getting to the rim, and later in his career would develop shooting.
Definitely before McGrady's prime. Before McGrady's prime, he was just finding his touch where he likes to score from. I mean, he always was a great scorer, but not as confident back then as he was with the Rockets and so on.
Magic really opened that up, but all right, I'll take this next one too then. So the early 90s Hornets was very, very flashy type team. And what I mean by flashy, they had the dynamic duo of Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning together. They made the first playoff appearance being a newer team, obviously started in the late 80s, and even won against the Celtics in the first round. So we know Larry Johnson was that double-double machine back then. He would get a lot of mid-range, driving to the basket, couple threes here and there. Obviously, different era. So it was a two-way center. Again, this is when centers ruled. Alonzo Mourning was, again, a double-double machine and also a shot blocker. We know it. Muggsy Bogues and Del Curry appear here again.
Yep.
We got the same guards.
They stay together.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. They made both lists here that we talked about just now. Everyone knows Muggsy Bogues for being that short floor general, little pesty on the defensive end, and Del Curry was a bench scorer.
So did Kendall Gill was a small forward starting, or I guess
believe he
Kendall
was a
Gill
two.
and Newman were starting together.
Yeah, I believe Kendall Gill was the two back then. A good solid two-way wing. He eventually went to the Nets too and some other teams. Pretty interesting player, but that team, for them to never really win like anything else besides a playoff round here and there, pretty interesting for that core. Again, the core being Johnson, Gill, Mourning, little Muggsy Bogues. So we find another fast-paced offense. Alan Bristow was the coach. Great defense, rising star for young cores. Sonics, you want to take over for the next one? Again, same type of era.
Let's go with
No, we should stick with the same era.
the same era.
Yes, go with the Sonics. I will
I
chime in since you don't know a lot about it.
mean, this was before my time, but we have the 93-94 Sonics.
Just say early 90s Sonics. It's not just 1 year's.
Yeah, I guess. Well, we're highlighting this year because they finished 63-19, which is the best record in the league at the time.
And they lost in the first round of the playoffs.
You have Gary Payton at the 1, Sean Kemp,
The dynamic duo of Payton
Detlef
and Kemp.
Schrempf. Also, Kendall Gill appears again.
As I was saying, there is some movement between teams here, similar players. Really, it was Payton and Kemp's team. Everyone knew that duo. They would, work as a nice punch 1 and 2. You got the quick, sure-handed Gary Payton with the assists, Sean Kemp with the dunking, the athleticism in his youth. As we know, he got a lot slower when he got older. Detlef Schrempf, nice tertiary option, solid scorer. Kendall Gill again, a nice option. Sam Perkins, the former UNC stretch big, one of the originals. He had that veteran presence on that team, and a solid 12 points a game in that season. Ricky Pierce off the bench.
Nate McMillan, the old Hawks coach.
For that team to lose so early, and they even had Vincent Askew. This was a team led by George Karl, whose name we may bring up shortly. Fast-paced again, defensive intensity again, a very deep team. They lost to Denver in that 8 versus 1 seed in that first best of 5 back then, and basically never really lived up to that hype of Payton and Kemp together with Schrempf. Detlef Schrempf. However you want to say it. All right, on to the next one. Was there one on top you wanted to?
The 99-2000 Trailblazers. So this was when Pippen left the arms of Michael Jordan.
The arms. So basically, that didn't work out with the Bulls' negotiations, and he found himself on the Blazers eventually.
So this is the team with Rasheed Wallace, Steve Smith, Damon Stoudemire, and Arvydas Sabonis.
An older Sabonis. He had a long career in the international realms. We find Detlef Schrempf on this team.
Yeah,
they had Bonzi Wells on
They
this
had a
team.
really deep team. A lot of these guys could have started. Bonzi Wells, Schrempf, Greg Anthony, a young
Greg
Jermaine
Anthony
O'Neal.
was a backup, though. Grant was that tough guy in the 4-5 area. Played on a lot of good teams on the Lakers, too, as well. Jermaine O'Neal was a draft pick from the high school realms who had a lot of hype and potential. He was still learning, but imagine having him on your deep bench. Pretty stacked team. This is a team where I feel like if there was no Shaq and Kobe Lakers.
Yeah, they lost Game 7 to the Lakers, Western Conference Finals. Pretty solid record, head coached by Mike Dunleavy Sr.
Yep.
So that's...
Go back up. So basically, Rasheed Wallace was a homegrown draft pick, I believe, on this team. Or at least a young player at this time. Steve Smith was a veteran sharpshooter. One of the original sharpshooters.
I believe this is the team that lost Game 7. They had a pretty big lead.
Yes. Again, there's going to be another team with a highly contested, sneaky, somehow Lakers won.
The Blazers led the Lakers by 15 with 10.5 minutes left, and that lead at that time was considered a pretty stable lead, not like how it is today where 15 points is nothing. They got outscored 31-13 to finish out the fourth.
And what I was trying to get at, this was around the era of the so-called ref scandal. The
here we go
2000s
again.
Lakers, you might have heard on a previous Mind You of the Week.
Here we go again.
What was that ref's name?
Tim Donaghy.
Tim Donaghy. Scott Foster, allegedly, whose name we hear even today in interesting playoff outcomes. Somehow the Lakers found their way into the finals against that deep Blazers team. And then this next team. The early 2000s Sacramento Kings. As many know from our previous Mind You of the Week on the Donaghy scandal, the 01-02 Kings specifically had a chance to get to that finals. And they ultimately never got to the finals, despite having such a loaded roster, top to bottom. They won 61 wins that year. In the West.
61 games.
61 wins.
They won 61 wins?
Games, yeah. Chris Webber was their all-star, double-double machine. Great passer in the post. Mid-range giant. Stojakovic, nice sharpshooter. He averaged 21 that season. Shot almost 42% from three. Again, they weren't shooting a ton of threes.
A lot of people at the time considered him the best shooter of that era, which is not too crazy. He had a smooth shot. One of the best. He had a smooth shot, very efficient motion-wise, an artistic form, I would say.
Yes, he eventually went to your playoff contending Mavericks at one point when you were a Mavericks fan. Exposed. Mike Bibby was on this team. A youthful Mike Bibby was coming up the ranks as a point guard. We find Doug Christie on another team. A defensive ace, solid contributor as a, tertiary/quaternary scorer behind Bibby, if you're considering him.
They have a lot of scoring on this team, though. They have Bobby Jackson, who came off the bench, averaged over 10. Turkoglu.
Young Turkoglu, yes.
Came off the bench, I believe, also behind Stojakovic.
Yes.
Averaged over 10.
Divac was that veteran leader who was a Laker for a while before they had their dynasty push. Interestingly, he finds himself against that team in this situation.
You got Gerald Wallace, who probably didn't see a ton of time, but definitely someone that could have fought to be a backup along with all that wing depth at the small forward position. Jabari Smith Sr.
I mean, he was a real low bench player, but yes, he was on that team. I mean, Mateen Cleaves was an interesting guy. Bobby Jackson really was their punch off the bench. This was led by Rick Adelman. As many know, he has a son still coaching. They were Predecessor on ball movement, high IQ offense, elite spacing, kind of like the modern NBA systems. Again, with that kind of lineup of having Stojakovic, having Christie, Bibby, Chris Webber, who could pass the ball out of the post. Kind of like a pre-modern type team that had a lot of the elements, maybe not as many threes, but spacing.
Another team that lost in Game 7 to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals.
Very, very debatable on what happened actually there, because the Kings really should have won that, just like the Blazers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but it's questionable, to say the least.
Is there any teams after on the bottom?
No, we did the bottom ones.
All right, so let's slide back up then. Take the next one. I believe this is the Suns. Or no, the Grizzlies. Bulls?
No, this is the Nuggets. Where's the Nuggets around the era of 2006 to 08 when they had Carmelo and Allen Iverson as their two-headed dog. But the third head could have arguably been Kenyon Martin. This was post-Nets Kenyon Martin, where he was dealing with some injuries. J.R. Smith was young at the time, still producing as a scorer. Nene, who only had a first and last name, but
Hilario was his real last name, but
everyone just called him Nene.
He was a draft pick that they were developing, but I mean, Camby was really that presence down low.
So this was a team that was considered top heavy, you would say. Two elite scorers at the top. They were pretty much neck and neck points wise. Carmelo averaged almost 29. Allen Iverson averaged 25 in 06-07 respectively.
They had other years where it was reversed, but those guys were really two of the top 5 scorers on the same team. I also say like guys like Linus Kleiza, who also played on the Raptors squad a little bit, Nahara, those were key pieces on the depth end of it.
Anthony Carter and Steve Blake to back up Iverson. That's a pretty solid depth point guard.
How could we forget J.R. Smith?
We didn't forget him. We mentioned him.
We did?
Yeah, I said a young J.R. Smith.
He was really like that tertiary scorer. I mean, Martin at this point wasn't scoring as much as he used to.
So, in this time, this team was known for isolation game. A lot of go to the corner, get out of my way. Mellow style.
Wow. Iverson too.
Let me ISO on this guy. Everyone just spread the floor. But
they didn't have a lot of scores outside of those three, though, so it kind of made sense.
I mean, yeah, they had a lot of athletic guys, too. Maybe they...
Said scorers.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. I mean,
are you going to expect guys like Steve Blake, Anthony Carter, Nahara, Kleiza to score 15 to 20? No, not really. Camby doesn't do that. At this point, Martin doesn't do that. So, that, again, there's a reason why their offense, why it was.
So, this team, I believe, also got knocked out by the Lakers. To the Lakers, right? Because I remember there was a game where...
Those Spurs, too, beat them that year. I was saying, like, overall, that core, they played multiple seasons together, obviously. I don't know why you picked one year where they lost the first.
So, I think it was 07-08 they lost to the Lakers. Yeah, that was also the first round. There was one game in specific that comes to mind where...
08-09.
Where, Kobe, Iverson, and Anthony combined for 90 points, which is crazy to say in that time. Just an interesting time. Definitely a lot of flash to their offense. But do you have any comments to round out this team?
A lot of people thought the Nuggets team with this assembled roster would have made the finals at least once. Obviously, they didn't do that. I was really rooting them against Kobe because at that time I was not a big Kobe fan. I was getting tired of the wins. I really wanted this roster to make their run, but they never really did that. So again, that's the premise of this. Late 80s, early 90s, the Portland Trailblazers were assembling a pretty decent roster, so another Blazers team that did nothing. 91, they finished with 63-19 record. At that time, the best in their history, reached the Western Conference Finals. And they basically had Terry Porter as the lead guard. He was an all-star level player, could score a little, but also was a great passer.
Not to be confused with Terry Johnson.
Not at all. Not even close. No one's doing that. Clyde Drexler, another all-star type player, 21.5 points. Also gave you rebounds and assists here and there. Kersey was a pretty decent player. Buck Williams, Kevin Duckworth. Overall, a solid roster. There was a young Cliff Robinson on the way up. Danny Ainge at the end of his career. They had some other players.
Allah, you can't forget Allah.
No, we could. I mean, talented guard Drazen Petrovic, rest in peace, was there. Again, this was led by Rick Adelman, a familiar name. Balanced offense. So just a deep team overall, but again, that core never really won anything back then.
Yeah, I mean, another team before my time, but definitely remember how Clyde Drexler played. Kevin Duckworth, I believe, was also on the Lakers, if I remember right.
No, not even close.
He wasn't on the Lakers ever?
No.
All right, yeah, as you can see, I don't know this team.
Drexler eventually did win 2 with the Rockets, but it took him leaving Portland to get wins.
So next team here, going back to the 2000s era, we got the Suns with the 7 seconds or less Suns with Nash, Stoudemire, and Sean Marion.
Pringles at the helm.
So they also had Joe Johnson, Quentin Richardson, Barbosa, 3 really solid scorers. Great depth there. Nash just find them and they could hoist in 7 seconds or less, as D'Antoni wanted. Jim Jackson, who was a little bit of a traveler to different teams. You see him on a lot of good teams. Not too much else that I mean, Jake Vox. Well, how do you say it? Voskuhl?
Voskuhl. He didn't really do much. I mean, the main thing was the top 4 players, their fast pace, obviously seconds or less, a lot of pick and rolls, perimeter shooting. A lot of teams were bashing D'Antoni's style back then, and they blamed that for why that Suns roster never won. A lot of the newer offenses picked up a lot of those things, though, and the Warriors are the ones who broke the mold of the 7 seconds or less in outside shooting, being able to win, when the Suns were highly criticized for doing that. Because that roster was so put together with future Hall of Famers, Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire,
Sean
Marion, is he a Hall of Famer? I'm not sure, but
champ.
He is a champion with the Mavericks. He eventually won one. I think Nash might have picked up one with the Lakers. And
no,
he didn't. Oh,
no.
He missed that one. Okay.
2 MVPs though.
Yeah, with the Suns, he was that MVP level player. Joe Johnson played for several other teams, as we will see on this next one.
So, this one is near and dear to me because this was one of my favorite teams playing 2K. I guess it'd be 2K10 with, I believe, Kobe on the cover for that year, the gold one.
Yes.
This was a fun team to play with because of how many scorers they had. That
wasn't this the team that had like 4 or 5 All-Stars?
I
believe
might
so.
have been. But
yes.
You see a lot of interesting players here. You got Joe Johnson, obviously, Josh Smith, Al Horford.
Young Al Horford, yep.
Jamal Crawford off the bench, averaging 18, which is crazy. Mike Bibby at the helm at point guard with Jeff Teague, just getting into the league at this time from Wake Forest.
Marvin Williams. I remember that dude.
Wasn't he a really solid dunker? Like, he was athletic.
Yes. He played at UNC. I mean, the main things were there. Wasn't Corver on this team? He was the other all-star at one point. So it was... Eventually, again, it's not just 1 year. We're talking about cores. Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, Horford, Corver. Then eventually Pachulia came up to be their center, with Horford playing the 4.
Yeah, I mean, this team finished second in the Southeast. Made it to round 2, but got swept by Dwight Howard and co.
Jameer Nelson.
So,
As in co.
yeah. I mean, this is a fun team, but never really lived up to the hype as they had a lot of depth.
Josh Smith fell off the face of the earth. He eventually left. Al Horford had greener pastures, literally.
Crawford jumped around. Jeff Teague eventually went to the Timberwolves, if I remember right. Yeah, definitely a team that was fun to watch and play with at the time on 2K. But moving on to
another team with Kyle Korver. So the early 2010s Chicago Bulls. We picked a specific year of 2012 for some reason. This is kind of when the Rose ACL injury tore apart their season.
not too much.
Tore apart their potential.
Stop saying tore.
He tore his ACL. All right, but this was a Thibodeau-led roster. Obviously, we all know about the overplaying of guys, supposedly. We have Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP ever. His stud, his original go-to man. Obviously, the lifeblood back then of that team. We had Joakim Noah, a defensive stalwart who had a great career.
And then fumbled it in New York when he couldn't shoot.
Exactly, but defensive stalwart nonetheless. Carlos Boozer was on this team after his years in Jazz realms of never winning. Luol Deng. We had Rip Hamilton at the twilight. Kyle Korver. Gibson, obviously Thibodeau's favorite player. Jimmy Butler has youth before he became who he is today. Off the bench, a nice center in Omer Ashik. That's basically what their core was. I would say that team had a lot of promise, obviously with Derrick Rose being the lifeblood of their run. But with his injury history that would follow, unfortunately they never reached their peak.
So this was also the lockout year that we picked, where there was only 66 regular season games.
Yes.
The Bulls were the top seed, and first game
against your Sixers,
he ended up tearing his ACL.
Tearing the lifeblood of the...
Stop saying tear.
So that team, obviously, we know why it didn't work out. It was not because of roster development or anything. It was simply injury to their star.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wishes that would have played out differently, and maybe the Bulls end up winning one in the next year or so, or a couple years. But
not that they need it anymore.
Another team around that time we have here is the 2010-11 Grizzlies.
An interesting roster. So, while this wasn't really flashy roster, it was more along the lines of grit and grind, as they would say. The grit and grind Grizzlies, led by the Lionel Hollins, defensive mastermind, physical play, the birth of the grit and grind style. Go on with the players.
All right, so at the helm we have O.J. Mayo being, or Rudy Gay, I guess would be at this time, the top scorer, but
he was really their go-to scorer with Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol.
I mean, yeah, the core-wise is Rudy Gay, O.J. Mayo, and Zach Randolph, who
Gasol.
were the main options for scoring.
Again, Gasol.
Gasol was there for defense.
No, he was a scorer. I'm saying you're thinking of 1 year.
I mean,
I'm saying a core, not just the 1 year.
I'm highlighting the top scorers. And then
Yeah, eventually it was Gasol. Again, you're not listening.
Mike Conley joined this team. He was always that leadership guy that could facilitate, set up the plays. You have off the bench, you got some depth. Shane Battier, Sam Young.
Grievous Vasquez.
But
But he was a Raptor as well.
That's not to forget about their identity piece on this team, which is Tony Allen, the true dog of defense. He would lock people up. People would just be puzzled how he was able to strip them sometimes and go the other way on transition dunks.
Tony Allen, a.k.a. got a stopper, as in like the stopper of LeBron.
Gobstopper.
Stopper.
So
stopper.
So this team ended 46-36,
On
but
that year.
lost to OKC in Game 7. I believe that was the
Second round.
Durant, Westbrook, and Harden.
Correct. That was that youthful trio of the Thunder. Obviously, this team had a lot of runs, but they never got to the Western Conference Finals even. And to cap it off, a really surprising never won team. The late 90s, early 2000s Wolves, again, years of the Lakers' dominance kind of ruled this era, and then the Spurs took over. We had, obviously, the MVP season in 2004 of Kevin Garnett, one of the best power forwards to ever play the game. He averaged 24 and 14, basically, plus 5 assists, a couple blocks, I believe, as well. A great two-way all-star level talent, all-NBA type player, consistent all-star. Obviously, we know he eventually won with the Celtics, but really surprising, his Wolves teams never really did anything much. He had his secondary studs in such as Latrell Sprewell, at least in the 2004 season. And also, we had Wally Zerviak for a lot of those other years, playing a secondary scoring. In that season, he was hurt, but he was a key scorer. They also had Sam Cassell as their, veteran point guard for a lot of years with Garnett. That presence, the defensive tenacity of Sam Cassell. We had some shooters like Fred Hoiberg. We had Trenton Hassel also with some defense. Olo Candy at center. Overall, a pretty good team led by Flip Saunders, who had, a son that also coached. They had won first in the West. They lost to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. A very reoccurring theme in these 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, that is the trend here, is that dynasties overruled these really solidly built teams with depth. Overall, the star power ended up winning most of these years.
And that's funny how that has seemed to be flipped in today's NBA. So that was our talking points for today. I hope you all enjoyed episode 40's collection of teams that never lived up to hype.
Alright, so before we end this, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're striving to be better every episode. Let us know what you want us to do as far as videos go. And
we will keep coming up with creative ideas too as well.
Remember to give us a like,
share,
comment,
subscribe to the frickin' pod.